All right, I'm gonna try and make this video short. So, customer brought this car and it's a 2010 Mini Cooper S with the 1.6 liter turbo. Customer told me the car was running rich and he wanted me to take a look at it. I'm like, sure, running rich shouldn't be no problem, right? With the car running rich, there's only a few reasons why a car can run rich. But then maybe a week passed and the customer was like, oh yeah, I'm at Home Depot, the car stalled on me. So I'm thinking, well, that's an easy fix, easy $150 diagnostic fee, right? Plus probably a crankshaft position sensor. And then, look at the what do you call those things? I can't look at the fuel trims. Look at the trim values to see what's going on with the engine, and then go from there and fix it. Well, it turned out to be a little bit more complicated than that. What I found out was, initially I was going the way of the clutch switch, because the clutch switch wasn't sending a signal to the DMV. So when you press the clutch, and this is a 6-speed manual transmission, when you press the clutch, I could see that the cast, oh my God, it's raining. I could see that the cast saw the clutch, but the DME didn't see the clutch. So I thought that was the reason. So that's why I had the dashboard tear it apart, but that wasn't the reason. I wasted a key making a new key programming. So then I start looking at the RPM, and there was no RPM, right? Actually, when I unplugged the crankshaft position sensor and the camshaft position sensor, the DME wasn't even detected that they were unplugged. So I was like, well, that kind of sucks. Well, come to find out that there is 5 volts, so we do get a 5-volt reference to the crankshaft position sensor. Now on this pin, for the crankshaft position sensor, I'm just going to do pin 1 is the 5-volt reference, pin 2 is a ground, pin 3 is the signal back to the DMV, right? And it's a Hall sensor, right? So that's the crankshaft position sensor. The camshaft position sensor, pin 1 is the 5-volt reference, pin 2 is the single, and pin 3 is the ground. So I was getting a 5-volt reference to the crankshaft position sensor and the camshaft position sensor, but the single always stayed at ground, and I did have a good ground. I went ahead, I created new wire harnesses and everything. I went ahead as far as taking the connector, cutting it off, and sticking pins in the actual crankshaft position sensor. Went as far as getting a new crankshaft position sensor and a camshaft position sensor, and I'm still getting the problem, right? I did notice the oil pressure sensor was leaking. I did get a new oil pressure sensor, and I did wiring up. So basically I got new wiring from the DMV going to the oil sensor, the camshaft position sensor, and the crankshaft position sensor, and I'm still having that problem. There's no 5 volts on the single line for the camshaft and the crankshaft. So I'm thinking, okay, so what can I do next? So what I decided to do to start the car, guys, was I went ahead and I got me a 10K ohm resistor, and I wired up on the crankshaft position sensor and the camshaft position sensor. I wired up the 5-volt to the single wire, and that finally allowed me to get a crank signal. So I'm actually able, with the 10K resistor on the crankshaft and the camshaft position sensor, I'm able to see a waveform on the oscilloscope. So that's pretty cool. So the waveform on the crankshaft position sensor, it goes from 0 to 5, and it looks pretty clean. But in the camshaft waveform on the oscilloscope also looks pretty clean, but it's only going up to 2.5 volts. I'm like, that's probably not enough for the DMV to see it. And sure enough, the car cranks and it runs fine, but it has a long crank. And I'm thinking, because it has a long crank, even though I have a good single waveform coming from the camshaft position sensor, the DMV, the high is only 2.5 volts. So that's a problem right there. So, and then the car runs fine. So I can start the car up, I can drive it around, it's fine. But what I did notice is that the valve gear, it's stuck at 36 degrees. I think 36 degrees is the maximum, and it's not moving. The set point stays at 36 degrees, which isn't a problem because I can drive the car. But if I give it the beans, if I press the gas pedal, the car just shuts off. So it appears that the car can't control, or it's not getting any feedback from the intake phaser, right? It's not even able to adjust it. So I give it the beans. I guess it wants to adjust the timing and it can't, so it just shuts the engine off. So in an attempt, guys, to get, so what may be happening in the DMV may, because also let me say that I did notice the customer was playing around trying to do some diagnosis because he had some tin foil wrapped around two pins. It was a positive, and I took that foil out. There was a shock, and I saw some insulation on the T-MAP sensor removed. So I'm not sure what the customer was doing, and I'm not sure how the DMV got into the state in the first place. But you know, actually, there had to be some type of surge going on. So I don't know what happened, but what I do know, it appears that even though when I provide the 5 volts to the single wire on the crankshaft position sensor, everything is good. But when I do it for the camshaft position sensor, I'm losing half the voltage, right? About half the voltage. It appears that, I don't know, there's some type of diode inside the on the single line, and that diode is to protect the microprocessor from surges. So it looks like maybe that diode got burned out, and it's creating a ground path inside the DMV. So even though, and with the low current, it's probably the current that I'm feeding, the 5 volts that I'm feeding through the 10K resistor, it's probably going partially to ground. So that's probably why I don't see the full 2.5 volts. So what we're going to try to do, guys, is we're going to try to remove that 10K resistor and put a 1K resistor in line. So that resistor is in line right now. So we're going to try to do that, guys, and then we're going to see, we're going to look at the waveform again, and then we're going to see if we can, if we can see 5 volts on that camshaft position sensor waveform, then I think we're good to go, and I can take the car for another test drive, give the car the beans, and then that will prove that it truly is a DME. That's the problem, but this should be a temporary fix for the customer to drive around until he can prepare another DME, guys. And then we'll go ahead and once he gets the DME for this model number, I do got the ISIN. I do have the ISIN code, so we can go ahead and reprogram the DME with the new ISIN code and put the new DME. And then I don't know. I'm thinking we just keep we can probably just keep the resistor in, because probably have to take the resistor out. We probably have to slice the resistor out, and then once he gets a new DME. But that's where we're at. So I'm about to redo the rewiring again for the camshaft position sensor. We're gonna put the 1K ohm this resistor. Guys, balance on hand, check it out. It's free. If you're having problems with managing your money, your finances, balance on hand is free. Download it today.